J.C. Newman Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tobacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
We're going to need a new voiceover because the things have changed here at the Smokin Tobacco Show. But welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tobacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com. And for the first time, I am joined by Mr. Mitchell Santaga of SmokinTobacco.com. Mitchell, how are you, my cohort?
Good. It's it's a beautiful day over here, and I'm excited to be on tonight.
I know, we're really excited. This is the dawn of a new generation. Wednesday nights, Mitchell will be joining me. Nicole will be on if she can. She won't smoke, but she'll be on if she can. But it just made more sense to have Mitchell definitely with us going forward, just so that I always knew I had someone with me, at least from Smokin Tobacco, because it does help. Well, I heard that we got Orlando Perez. I got a couple of honorable mentions. I got Orlando Perez is here with us tonight. We got LFD Birdie from the LFD Discord chat, which for those who don't know about that, it is a wild time. They smoke a lot of big ring gauges over there. I heard that they have, I heard that we have that vice president of sales from, what's that company called? Don Doroteo? That's right.
Don Doroteo.
Yeah, Don Doroteo. And is his name Garret Robertson? It sounds so familiar. Where do I know him from?
I don't
Oh,
know.
I know. He's that dude. He's that dude from How About That Cigar, right? Or he used to be. I don't know. We'll see.
How about that cigar?
How about that cigar, you know? Burn cigars, not bridges.
Not bridges.
Yeah, so showing a little bit of love to those guys. I know Garrett's here tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there he is. He's in the comments. So, no, everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I know that tonight of all nights, we are going up against Smoke In with Alec Bradley. Their Smoke In Alec Bradley Great Smoke drop is tonight. For those who were there last night, thank you. We were live with Alex and Abe, and Bradley came on. Talk about the Great Smoke and tonight's drop. So,
no harm in going back and forth between streams and grabbing yourself that Alec and Bradley. What do they call it? The crew.
The crew, 10
You know?
count bundle. I think it's
Did it well last, man.
$94.95.
That
Yeah.
looked like a nice cigar, and Bradley was explaining some of the stuff inside, and it sounded delicious.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one to get. I see. I'm probably gonna miss out because I'm on here doing this. And on the Saka one, I didn't have my ticket in time, which was on me. But that's okay. I'm a firm believer in regardless of what any of those people over there say, Saka usually does a second round, so I'll get it then. But instead tonight, I'm going to light a Pestagna because we have our good friend, Mike, a.k.a. the Cigar Hustler, is here with us tonight. Let's bring him on. Boom, there he is. Look at him.
You didn't even try to say Szczepankiewicz.
No. Nope.
That was a good step. That was a good step.
I'd rather just save myself the harm, and I don't want to put any embarrassment on him, so I'm just not even going to try. People who know me know I'm very horrible with pronunciation, and that's I wasn't even going to go for it. I couldn't.
Been saying Powstanie for like 5 years at this point, so yeah.
I know. I just figured that one out. But whatever. To each their own. Everybody learns. It could be worse. I could have someone else here tonight who could be further on my ass about stuff, but it's okay.
Hey, we're all learning together, right?
I'm gonna take a page out of Abe's book from last night. Last night, because Mitchell, I know you saw the show. Last night, Abe must have said about 5 times when he was talking about manufacturers. He's like, and I'm not gonna mention any names.
Then mentions names.
John Carney, but oh yeah, that one was great. He did it the first time, and I'm like, okay. And then he did it like 4 more times. I'm like, Abe, just fucking say it. Say who it is.
I'm not gonna mention any brands like Drew Estate.
Like Drew Estate, and then he was like, yeah. Then he made a comment. He said something about like we were talking because he was talking about how great Bradley is. He's like, I've watched you grown up, and he was like, no, seriously, and he was like, there's a lot of times like when the kids get into the business, when the parents were kind of running it, it's not always great. And he's like, I'm not going to mention any names, Ashton. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, fuck. I'm like throwing daggers out on my show. Like, that's just But hey, you know I love Abe. That's why they call him Honest Abe. That's why they call him Honest Abe. He doesn't hide it, you know. But that was a good time. But we got Mike with there tonight, which is another. He's another, like, you know, honest. He's like Honest Mike, and he's never shy to say what he thinks and feels. That's why we love having him here, because I already know that it doesn't matter what we talk about. Mike's gonna have a rant, and it's gonna be great. And some people won't like it, and oh well, but it's okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get an opinion, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Without-
and that's
Mike,
fine.
do you plan on having your kids take over the business?
Fuck no, man. I plan on setting that thing on fire before I'm out of here. Fucking flamethrower.
There you
the
go.
Cigar. I wouldn't subject any kid to the cigar industry when they grow up. You know, I hope they have bigger hopes and dreams. That's for sure. You know?
The interesting thing about you, Mike, is, I already told you we're gonna bring it up, and I know you're not gonna tell us anything, but
yeah,
Skip kind of teased that you have a new cigar coming out under the brand.
yeah. I got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming out. He actually has posted some other stuff, but and you know, people haven't picked up on it. For one, the Habano and the broadleaf Corona Gorda, that's going to be a line extension for our core lines right now. We're going to obviously create another core line that we've been working on, that I've had the blend for fucking ever, and I'm very excited that it's finally coming to fruition with that Connecticut. And we're going to have a new SBC that he hasn't posted that one yet. He's posted it, but he hasn't posted with the band on it. And there's going to be a new War Bear, which people also didn't pick up on because it just looks like the other stuff, but it's a box press Corona Gorda. So.
Very interesting stuff. I mean, you guys, you know, like a bunch of others. I mean, you have your own brand. You operate as a retailer, so you kind of have the best of both worlds. So you're always busy. You're one of those guys. You're busy. You're out there. You got stuff going on, and you look at the industry from obviously and media. I mean, too. I mean, you got media too. So I mean, you look at this industry from multiple angles.
Sure.
Do you think that's a big advantage to everything else that you do, whether it's, you know, two of them help the other or whatever, by keeping you so well rounded and in so many different facets of the business that, you know, you can kind of use the others to feed into one and vice versa and all that?
Well, I think vertical integration in any business is always important, right? Being a retailer is always difficult, right? So just selling a product and then restocking that product and then paying for all of those things, that in itself is not the easiest thing to do, especially if you're not moving a tremendous amount of volume. So you have to have other avenues of revenue, right? So other retailers have bars, like we have beer and wine, and that's a big help. You know, when I created Powstanie originally, it wasn't so much of a fact of, hey, I need to increase my profit margins. I just needed to build a cigar that nobody could fuck with, because I've had that issue in the past where other retailers could dictate exactly what's going on in your store, which is shitty. So am I allowed to curse?
Yeah,
so.
you are. Yeah, you are. You can be yourself tonight. Don't worry.
So right, I'm taking off my pants.
Oh, we haven't already done that?
No, I was waiting for the midterm of this show to remove my pants.
I've had my pants off the whole time. I mean,
I'm jealous. Waiting for like another 5 or 10 degree drop here, so that's when I'll remove my pants. But yeah, so I wanted something that no one else could take away from me, and that turned into, you know, other retailers that I had become friends with. They wanted it, so then it's like, okay, well then I might as well, you know, release it to the whole world. And it's got its challenges in itself, because I don't like a lot of retailers, you know.
Why?
People can be, because they can be assholes. A lot of them are fucking arrogant. They're so full of themselves, and at the end of the day, all you're doing is selling leaves, man. And if you're not working with people, the right retailers, to try and build and work together and build brands, then you just wind up getting stepped on. I see it over and over again in this industry. You know, a brand gets too big, and then it's like they forgot who helped them get there. You know, and then they put regulations and requirements on these smaller guys in order to have access to their LEs or their special production stuff or whatever the case may be. You see, I've seen it on both ends, which is kind of the thing where you're referencing as far as angles. Like, you have, like, I've had incidences where, your credit card expired, or it was lost or stolen and you had to change it, right? Or so then you go and place an order with a company that maybe you don't deal with on the regular, and the card comes up declined, and nobody fucking calls you, right? Why not? Why wouldn't you call? So I got to call you again and say, hey, where's my stuff? And then you got to say, oh, the card came up declined 2-3 weeks ago. I was like, great. Or on the other side, like, what? Where is the customer service there? But the customer service used to be there, but now, you're not, we're bigger now, so we don't really give a shit about, your minuscule order, or your inconsistent order, or whatever the case may be. Or the other side is, like, let's say on the retail side, the card comes up declined, and the brand owner manufacturer reaches out to that person, and they don't respond to you. They avoid you because they're in debt up to their eyeballs. Maybe they things went the wrong way that month, or whatever the case may be. So it's it's a very strange industry that we're in, and there are egos on both sides of that aspect. And I like to choose who I work with, so I'm not running and gunning and just trying to blast out and sell as much things as I possibly can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I I would agree. I mean, I think look, in any business that you do, right? There's going to be challenges. There's going to be people who work with you better than others. There's going to be, there's always a headache, right? And one thing I've learned just having people like Abe on the show, and knowing people like Dave Garofalo at Two Guys, and people like Kurt Kendall, and all the retailers I know, right? And you've been around long enough, you get to know them long enough, and you start to hear about some of the things that go on and stuff, and you hear some of the stories, and it's just like, yeah, there's so much shit that just as a retailer you got to deal with, and it's you listen to them and you're like, damn, and it still looks easy.
Yeah, Kurt's always been very nice to me. I will say though, Abe, he's fucking been great. I met him probably 8 years ago, 9, maybe longer, maybe 10 years ago at a Drew Estate event that he was doing. And, I talked to him briefly at that time. I was just getting in the industry, probably 2-3 years. And I was like, man, you fucking work pretty hard. And he's like, thanks, man. Like, you could tell that by saying that, he appreciated it. He wasn't like, piss off, And then as time has kind of progressed, our paths crossed way a few times. He's invited me to the Great Smoke a few times. And, if I'm going down south, I like to stop in and see him just to kind of bullshit. He doesn't carry my product. I'm not pushing him for the sale or whatever. But he's, I have a good relationship with the guy. He's never mistreated me,
Yeah.
And a person of that magnitude that sells that kind of volume, they definitely could have that ability to treat a smaller retailer or brand owner like, hey, fuck you, but he didn't. So I got nothing but respect for that guy,
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, he's.
At the end of the day,
Go ahead, Mitchell.
it sounds like they just you're just looking for open, honest, and just grateful communication. It's just like, just say something at least.
It sounds so simple, right? But it's not. Apparently, it's not that fucking easy. That's the crazy part. It really isn't. I just don't get it. So, but with that being said, I'm definitely not the richest guy in the cigar industry, and not by a fucking long shot, right? But I am perfectly comfortable telling somebody to go fuck themselves, and I just don't want to deal with them. You know what? It's like, I'm good, bro. You don't need the product that bad, and I don't need the fucking sale that bad. So I wish you the best. But what you're doing doesn't really fit my format, and we just go our separate ways. I just think that, and I sleep better at night that way. I don't stress that much about it. I know that the guys that I work with, they're great. They're killers. They do a fantastic job as retailers, and I don't care if they're buying 50 boxes or 5, because I know I've learned that every demographic is different. Every location is different. Like, all I ask is that, you give me a decent presentation in your humidor, and, you're excited and you like the product. If those things don't correlate with your shop, then I just don't care if I'm in there or not. I'm like, all right, cool. So
Yeah, I mean, I would say at the end of the day, as long as someone's phone's ringing. I think that was Mike.
my wife's computer. So
Okay.
and my son's crazy calling me.
Are we gonna? Is this gonna be a problem?
Not that ready for the decline.
But no, I mean, I would say, look, everyone runs their business however that works for them, and as long as it works for you, as long as you're still making money, anyone's free to run their business however they want to, and I think that's all that matters. And if you run yours the way you do and it works, then great. Others, do their own thing. We hear people, especially social media, right? I mean, you guys know. I mean, you go on social media, you always get someone who's yapping and complaining and trying to give someone else a hard time. Like, why don't you do it this way? And it's like, well, at the end of the day, maybe you make a good point, maybe you don't. But clearly, their business is still working for them. So unless they're on there crying and complaining, saying like, oh my God, we have no customers, we're losing money, and we're trying to do this, and it's like, well, maybe you should make a change. But at the end of the day, as long as it works for you, then hey, fuck him, right? All the power to you. I did miss. I have to mention one thing. Actually, I have to mention two things. Of course, because we have many friends here at Smokin Tabacco who are not always on here with us, but they are always here with us in spirit, and every week they're here to support us. And that is going to. Speaking of retailers, let's not forget about our friends at 2guyscigars.com. Let's get down to business. When you're buying your cigars and your retail cigar needs, you want to buy cigars online, head over to the number 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com for one of the biggest, vastest, and exciting collections of cigars in the industry. Head over to the number 2guyscigars.com. And while you're at it, head over to cigarblondie.com and pick up an amazing set of a lighter and a cutter. Amazing quality. You get the double guillotine cutter, the flat blade lighter. There it is. It's running out of fuel. I got to top it up. At cigarblondie.com. Great quality. They're available in 3 amazing finishes: chrome, black, and white. So head over there and check those out today. What was I going to say? We talked about before the show a couple of things. One thing that came up that's random, shot out of a cannon, non-cigar related, I just wanted to bring up because I thought it was just hilarious. I messaged both of you about this. So for anyone who saw Tiger King, everyone obviously knows about the drama that unfolded from so many different angles. But most people remember the whole thing about Carol Baskin killing her husband. I literally just found out an hour ago from the New York Post that apparently she didn't kill her husband. They found him. He's alive. So this guy has been alive the whole time. He's been living in Costa Rica, which, I mean, I guess that's one possibility they thought he may be if he was alive, and he was there. And so this guy's had to sit here and watch all of this unfold on TV and watch people assume that he was put through a meat grinder or fed to a tiger. And he's like, I mean, I'm just doing my thing.
Did he have some kind of insurance fraud or some shit like that? Because, I mean, he was declared dead in the U.S.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure, but I would assume if he came back to the U.S., he would have to at least say, like, hey, I'm not dead, or, if he... Well, because, I think he did because she got it, I think. But I don't know. That's a good question. How does that work?
Right.
Maybe he was just really, really sick of Carol Baskin, and that was his only way out, was to fake his death and blame it on her.
That's to be honest with you, Mitchell. That's probably the most likely scenario. He's like, just gotta make people think I'm dead.
It was like, I heard Costa Rica's growing some good tobacco over there. I'm gonna go become a tobacco farmer and roll cigars.
He probably
I can't deal with Carol Baskin anymore.
He probably also never thought, like, oh, hey, there's going to be this massive documentary that comes out. And, oh, by the way, it's going to come out when everyone is forced to stay in their house and watch TV. So literally the whole world is going to see this documentary about how my wife probably killed me, and it's going to bring more attention to my situation. Probably did not cross his mind. So,
no.
Well, in the article, it says the FBI and Central intelligence has been watching him since 2002. Like, they knew he was alive, and they just allowed all this Netflix stuff to happen. And, like, I guess they like couldn't say anything. Like, so weird.
Maybe they were hoping they could just smoke him out with it. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe he'll come out of hiding. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that was interesting. Really random. Anyway,
Very.
very, very strange. So Mike, talking about Powstanie, this cigar is fantastic. Remind me, where is the cigar made?
Nika Sueño, Romacraft Tobacco Factory. With my
Got that
boy
man
Skip.
tobacco in there.
Got the man backo.
We got to get Skip on the show at some point. I have to ask you. So, working with Skip, I mean, I know you know Skip pretty well. What has that experience been like for you? I mean, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really had the opportunity to chat with Skip myself a lot. But he's definitely someone I've always wanted to kind of get to know a little bit more of, and I know he makes some amazing cigars, but
Yeah.
just speak a little bit about that too. I mean, he's definitely good at what he does.
He has been a great friend and mentor for over a decade. Him and Michael. Sitting down with him and always having conversations on personal levels and business levels and tobacco levels have been done nothing but benefit me. And I carry myself differently because of him. And there are things that he's told me that echoes every day in my life. I mean, even simple shit, just like, are you a good person? Be a good person. And you don't think that like that statement resonates at all, but I carry myself every day in every action that I do because of those conversations,
Right.
As dumb as it may sound, even like stupid shit at the gym, I'll make sure that I weights get put back in the right spots. And if somebody else doesn't do it, I don't bitch and moan about it. I'll just take care of it. Just things like that. They may sound trivial, but if everybody did those simple things when no one else was watching, then I think that the world would be 100 times better. As far as the tobacco aspect goes, I think that he has access and he gets some of the best tobacco on the planet. And it's very hard to make something shitty when you have good tobacco as a basis, right?
Of course.
So when they were just kind of getting started, and they were probably a couple of years into it, I said, hey, I want to make a cigar. He's like, all right. At that time, things were a little bit easier. So I went in and I blended a cigar, and I used a Habano wrapper and a Habano binder. And it kind of overwhelmed. And he knew that I was making a mistake, but he let me blend it anyways. He's like, okay, what do you taste? And I'm like, Habano. And he's like, yeah. So you need to go back in and kind of tweak this and look at things a little differently to create a great cigar. And then as time progressed, you learn what tobaccos have sharp notes on the factory floor that will mellow out after 12 to 16 weeks. Little things like that make a huge difference. So not only do I have that ability, have I learned all of those things on a personal level and a business level. I mean, also, the business mind that he is as far as, Excel sheets and breaking things down and all that stuff also is carried into my business. Not at his level. It's just not possible. I'm just not as smart as him, I suppose. But, like all of those things. But I have the ability to kind of say, all right, I understand the basis of tobacco. I understand the quality of cigars. I can look at a cigar and tell you what I think about it, what it's worth. There are even sometimes that I can tell you what's in the tobacco, what's in the cigar, as far as specific leaves, because there are certain ones that really kind of stick out, right?
Absolutely.
I can now look at other brands and factories and say, okay, if this particular tobacco you have as your strong suit, maybe I would use that particular wrapper and do a couple things differently, and I could make a decent cigar or something that's more to my liking out of that factory, which I got to do last year when I made some of those smaller batch blends with Room 101 and Eric Espinoza, and those things were a lot of fun. I would never be able to do those things if Skip never took the time out to really kind of educate me on stuff, and he never lets me cut any corners. if he needs something, just recently he needed something in a rush, and my computer took a shit, so I put it together without having my computer, and I didn't finish it. And I was like, "Hey, I forgot one thing. Is that okay?" And he's like, "No, go back in and do it." I'm like, "Fuck." You know, it's easy for him
Keeps you
to do it.
accountable. Keeps you
You know
accountable.
what I mean? Yeah, he does 100%. I'm like, all right, and I know that he's right. And I'm like, I probably just so I went back in and I fixed it. And I think that more people would benefit if they had friends like that than a friend that would fix the problem when you have the ability to fix the problem, or show you that you have the ability to fix the problem, if that makes sense. And those are the type of people that I want to be around. So, you know, he's well educated. He's a great friend, an amazing person, and I'm very fortunate to have met them early on in their walk into the cigar industry, as well as my own, at least on the brand owning and manufacturing level. So
Nice.
Mitchell, really quick, everyone from the YouTube side keeps asking what you're smoking. There you go.
Yeah. So he mentioned working with Eric, so I grabbed myself a Espinosa Laranja Reserva Caixa. I love this. This, in my opinion, the Caixa format in this Reserva Laranja is the best they make. I've had a few different sizes, and this is just so good. Smoking great. Pairing it with some bourbon, some I think it's called 10th Mountain Distillery, something like that. 10th Mountain whiskey out of, I think it's out of like Colorado or something. A buddy of mine brought it in today, so trying it out. I'm a big bourbon guy. Bourbon over Scotch for me.
Same. I'd say the same.
nice.
Mike, so
I assume, Mike, you're smoking a Pustania tonight.
I am.
I am.
Oh, Mike. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Mike. No, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm smoking a Postania broadleaf. I mean, new cigars come in all the time, and I always try them. I always smoke them. Usually, if I trust the brand, like perfect examples, LFD's Solus came in today. I thought it was a great cigar. I smoked that today.
Mm-hmm.
But I have my normal routine. I usually smoke an EC Brotherly Kindness, a Postania Habano. Then I kind of gravitate towards a broadleaf, and then I usually smoke back-to-back Neanderthals in the end of the night. So that's usually my normal routine. Sometimes I'll sprinkle some Cro-Mags in there and some other things, but normally that's kind of my go-to route, right? So this came on at 7:00, 7:30, 8:00 is usually my broadleaf time. So, that's when I'm smoking.
Yeah, you mentioned the Neanderthal. That is one cigar of Skip's that I would say it's probably my favorite, and I think a lot of people would probably say that, but I really enjoy that cigar, and it's funny because I haven't had any of those in a while, and I'm definitely due, so I'm going to have to grab some of those soon. But yeah, that is a fantastic fucking cigar.
I bring a home probably every 20 days or so, 25 days, because I usually smoke 2 a night, right? Maybe 30 days if you don't smoke 2 every single night. And I'll tell you what, man, there's no greater feeling than bringing home a gigantic box of HNs, unwrapping it, and then just completely filling your humidor with them. I look forward to it, and I'm actually officially cigar. I'm going to be out, so tomorrow I'm going to bring home another box of HN. So, that San
Nice.
Andreas. What's amazing about what I've learned about cigars is San Andreas is a great wrapper, right? A lot of people can make a good San Andreas cigar. The hard part is figuring out what you need to put in the filler so that you get additional flavor profiles off of that cigar. And they have nailed it with that HN. They've nailed it with the Neanderthal blend in its entirety. So, yeah, I mean, I gravitate towards them every night.
Mitchell, do you guys have Romacraft up there?
In Canada, we don't get Romacraft, but I've been fortunate enough that some of my friends who've gone in and out of the States have given me Cro-Mags. So I've had some Cro-Magnums, and honestly, again, definitely Manbacco in there, but I would say one of the greatest retrohales I've ever tasted was on a Cro-Magnon. This was it was quite well aged. I think it had 5 years on it, 4 years on it. So yeah, it was super good. Besides that, I haven't actually been able to explore anything else by Roma, but I definitely want to get my hands on some.
Yeah.
And everyone asking for the bottle pull. I don't have the bottle with me. Also, it's a shared bottle. I'm not just gonna,
Don't be shy,
spit in it.
Mitchell. Don't be
We
shy.
got to work on the background for you. If you're going to be here officially, we need to do something because right now,
Hey,
it
I
looks like
need
state,
a- I'm looking for a sponsor, guys. Sponsor for
Yeah.
the studio here. Anyone out there looking to sponsor the studio out here in beautiful British Columbia? It's
This
It's
guy's out
in
here
the market.
begging for it.
could be the Powstanie studio.
Oh wow!
be
Don't
the
do a
Powstanie
dry bag
studio.
like that. Don't put him on the spot.
I'm just
No.
saying.
All depends on the price, baby. All depends on the price.
Could be the Cigar Hustler studio. Just the BDP
The Cigar
studio.
Hustlers. Cigar Hustlers podcast studio on Smokin Tabacco.
On Tobacco.
It's the satellite studio.
Yeah.
The Canadian division.
The Canadian division.
The Wanderlust that Skip does too. Is that only for Europe? I know it's not here, but they don't get that in Canada, right? It's just for Europe.
Yeah, it's Germany. Yeah.
Oh, Germany. Okay.
But Germany distribution for all of Europe, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, because a lot of times I see a lot of European exclusive stuff, and it always goes to Germany. I think Drew Estate's Bauhaus is specifically Germany.
Right.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
'Cause they actually have a market for them. What's crazy though is a lot of those Wanderlusts just find their way back to the U.S.
Someone told me, and I don't know if it's true, but does the Wanderlust have Cuban tobacco in it?
I think the original blends may have, but I don't think it does anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I was
All a
curious.
mystery. It's all a big mystery.
Yeah. Life's
if it
greatest.
comes
Undisclosed.
If it comes from Cuban lands in Nicaragua, is it still Cuban? I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I know, right? I mean, who's to say? Talking about retail, Mike, I know that, we touched a little bit on this earlier, but as a retailer, we don't get to have a lot of retailers on the show. I mean, last night we had Abe, but, we had a lot on the docket with him, so we didn't really get to go into any side topics. But, as a retailer, we talked a lot about the brand and everything you guys do there and working with Skip and the factory and the blending. And aside from all the ordering and all that other stuff, when it comes to the customer base, right? First thing I want to ask you right now, what trends are you seeing in the retail store among customers right now in terms of like what's selling, what's not selling, stuff that maybe you hear a lot of people talk about, but when you actually talk to someone who's in the store every day who could say, yeah, it's funny, everyone talks about it, but they don't sell. What are you seeing right now?
Well, I think that there's a lot of variables when you ask that question, right? First and foremost, retailers will sell what they suggest to a consumer more often than not. Something, you're going to have your guys that come in and say, hey, what's new? And they're going to want to try something new. But if something comes in that a retailer or the employees really like, they're going to tell everybody about that product, right? So I think a good example of that would be that Almac. When the Almac hit, I smoked it at PCA. I'm like, man, this is a banger. This is going to be the cigar of the year for sure. I mean, this is the one, and it's the Claro Corona Gorda, so not the Maduro, but the Almacs in general were all really good. So we started churning through a lot of those. They're still trending, and then of course now you see them popping up on everybody's cigar of the year list, which I'm not surprised at all. So they're hitting. Now, for me in particular, I mean, we're a Romacraft store. We're a Powstanie store. So those things are always going to consistently sell in our shop, right? Because for one, we believe that they're the best cigars on the market. And for two, there are some of them are our cigars. I mean, we blended them with that belief. So people are going to come in looking specifically for those things. You're going to always have your Monte Cristo white guys. You're never going to turn that guy off of them. And if you try to, all you're going to do is piss him off. So you're always going to have that. You're always going to have your Romeo and Julieta dude. You're always going to have your quorum guy, your factory throw-out bundle guys. Those people will always be the same. They're never going to change. They're set in their ways. Even like the 858 dudes and all that other stuff. They don't want anything else. So, what's going to trend and sell in your stores, what you think is really good or what your employees think is really good. And I would say right now that would definitely be the Olmec for sure.
Yeah, we had that on our list. We had the Toro Maduro on our
Yeah.
list. And Mitchell,
I
do
mean,
you
you
remember?
missed a little. You were close. You were close. But
It was in the top 10 though, wasn't it, Mitchell? Do you remember where that was? I'm trying to
I
remember.
think it placed just outside. Was it like 12? It's a long list.
I can't remember, and I should know, but
that's that hit on multiple platforms, right? As far as the Olmec in general, a lot of people thought that was a fantastic cigar, and it is.
it really is.
The fucking label's terrible. I mean, it looks like a fucking guy with a leather football helmet, but it doesn't matter. It's still it's still a great cigar. Nick he's a great blender. He's very talented in that aspect. He makes great cigars, and he is a guy that can play to a factory's strengths. He's like, when he wants to put something together, he knows what he needs to use. He knows the tobacco that they have, the axis that they have, and what that ability, what it'll turn into, and what it'll look like. So,
Yeah, Nicole brought when we smoked them. We bought the last. Nicole, we bought the last of. I can't remember. I think it was the Claro Toros. That they had that when we were in there. Yeah, it was something. It was a particular size, but yeah, we bought like the last of what they had, and they had only had them for like a week, so they were going quick. I remember when they first landed at stores. I remember I was like, I got to get up there, and I went to the store, and some of the sizes they were already gone.
right.
They went fast, and it was funny because Nick was on with us last week, and we talked a lot about Olmec and the Seninger and some of the other stuff. He did a Firecracker release last year, so the consensus was kind of that he was a little quiet for a few years, but then he came back. But he came back with all of these things, and he even has more stuff he kind of teased for TPE and PCA that maybe we'll see. But I mean it was good to see him at the show, and it was good to see him with some new releases. And you never want to say, and Mike, I know you could probably speak to this too, and you probably will agree. You never really want to go to a guy and say like, "Oh, he's putting out a cigar. It's definitely going to be good because everything's going to be good." Because, people can make mistakes and make flops, but there are people, and Skip would be one of those people. Nick Melillo is one of those people. You hear new cigars coming out, but automatically you have extremely high hopes just because their track record has always been, banger, 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 new cigar. It's probably going to be a banger.
Right.
Do cigars flop sometimes? Sure, of course. I mean, it happens. Sometimes people put stuff out and it's just not well received. Consumers are like, I just didn't like it, and that happens, and you kind of pivot and you move on. But yeah, I mean, but there's also not a lot of people who I feel can put out cigars that are consistently always being so extremely highly acclaimed, like the Olmec was. I mean, that was, and like you said, I smoked it too. Right off the bat, and I was like, "This is gonna be something." It really is. I'm very excited, and sure enough, it came out, and there it was. Sorry, I'm getting.
Do you think it lands pretty high on the consensus?
That's
this
true.
year?
The consensus is coming out.
Yeah, I think it will.
I think
it could land in a top 3 spot pretty easily.
Well,
wow.
It's a question of, are we just making the statement of Olmec in general, or are we talking specifically one Vitola, one blend? You know what I mean? Like, that's where things can get a little bit murkier. But
yeah, I don't know if the consensus takes into consideration Claro versus Maduro, because it's definitely been a pretty strong split between the two. Like, I haven't really seen one favored over the other so far. There's been a lot of lists with the Claro, a lot of lists with the Maduro. I don't think they're Vitola specific though, because that would just make it even more difficult.
The half-wheel consensus?
Yeah, the half-wheel consensus.
I mean, I will say this though: when somebody makes a new blend or they make a new cigar, there are so many other things to consider too. Like, if they're known for making a bold cigar, maybe they're trying to obtain another consumer on that mild to medium level. So, obviously it won't stick in that level, with those original consumers. The other thing too is, how was it marketed? The marketing is huge. I got into a little bit of a spat with Casey, my boy Casey Aldemini. I always screw up his last name, but he's like, influencers suck. I'm like, no, influencers don't suck. Influencers don't suck. having influencers talking about cigars and promoting cigars could bring new people into the industry. And the fact of the matter is that we always need new consumers in this industry. So,
Definitely.
you can't shit on, and, believe me, there are a lot of influencers I'm like, I don't bother with. I don't want to see what they're posting. I don't care. But I know that they could have that reach to somebody. They could turn a person that's not a cigar consumer into a cigar consumer, right? So I would never say that they're bad for the industry or they're a waste or anything like that. Some of them know shit about cigars. I don't care. I don't care. Let them promote. Let them build, because you can't promote cigars like you can anything else. You won't see cigars in Sports Illustrated or anything like that. You won't see a commercial for Camacho. Like, that's not going to happen. You'll see a commercial for 5 different types of medications that you need to be on for depression, ED meds, hair loss, HIV, all those other shit. But you won't see anything because it's illegal to talk about cigars, because cigars are the devil. So any way that this industry can reach new consumers, I'm for. It's just that simple. That's what makes the most sense to me. So
I think it's well said. I mean, I think that there's definitely, like, there's positives and negatives to everything, right? But there's definitely some positives to that. I think my only gripe with some of the influencers is I think some of them overstep their boundaries sometimes with certain things.
Who I am? Do you know who I am? I have 100,000 people on Instagram
That I paid for, because they all buy their followers.
How many bots follow me?
And they can be a fucking pain in the ass at PCA and all this other shit. I understand all that, but you have, as a brand owner or a manufacturer, you have to be patient with everybody. You can't just lose your mind on somebody, because they're intervening, even if they're being inappropriate. Say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I'm not available right now. I'm in the middle of something, and we will have to get back to you. I think it's important to always kind of carry yourself that way. Just because you don't, like, maybe somebody doesn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just being fucking stupid.
No, exactly.
Like, look, a guy cuts you off on the road. You can lose your mind on that person, right? Or you could say, man, maybe that guy's got to really take a shit or something. I don't know. Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe he walked in on someone fucking his wife. Who knows? And just move on, right?
A lot of possibilities.
So, yeah, like, it's, believe me.
Very specific possibilities.
It is. I always try and put things in my mind that make me laugh. I always try and flip the switch as fast as I can, because if not, it's very easy for me to go down that hole and to chase that guy down the road, and to do all that stupid shit that really doesn't do anything for me. So, I try and convey that with everyone.
And have them for breakfast.
Yeah, whatever. It's just like, hey, you know what? I don't need this war. I don't need this fight. This fight doesn't make sense for me, right? And learning to let it go is probably the hardest thing to learn. But when you do, it's just, life's a little bit better for you, not for them. I mean, they're already having a miserable fucking day, right? But I can't control that. All I can control is how I respond to a situation. So if an influencer is going to be all up in my shit, I can politely tell them to calm down. Now, if they want to, if they continue to intervene, don't take my kindness for weakness. There's always that fine line.
True.
But you always try your best to just de-escalate a situation and just let it go. To the best of your ability.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, it kind of, first of all, I have to say, for both of you, in the beginning of the show, I don't know if Garrett's still with us, but we're going to talk about him in a second, because I got to do the news segment, and we're going to talk about Garret really quickly. But Garret came out of the gate showing a lot of love for Mike, saying, I don't care what anyone says. I think he said something along the lines of, I don't care what anyone says. I know you don't use steroids. I know those muscles are real. And then I think he said something about, I know that hair is natural. There's no hair transplants or something like that. Now I got the YouTube side. I got a lot of the guys in here just going to town on Mitch. They love Mitch for some reason. One guy says Mitch cured my ED.
There you go.
I mean,
job, Mitch.
Hey, you know, man,
Mitch, Mitchell, I think you're gonna pan out really well with the viewers on this show. I think you've already proven yourself a smash hit, and it's only been one show. These guys think you're a stud.
The people love me. The people love me. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yay.
Mike Palmer's here too.
BDP's, man. BDP's out in here.
He's here. He said, please send me ransom for Mikey, Venmo cash, and then he said he gets a shot in the pee-pee. There's a lot going on in this chat room. I don't know what it is, but it's funny because last week, when Melillo was on, he didn't realize he could see the comments until like the end, and I see him like pause, and I just see this smile on his face as he's going through them, and he just goes, "Oh, so there's comments that I can see here," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, "Man, there's a lot going on in here tonight." If only we could have gone longer, it would have been great. That once he knew, but yeah, no, that was it gets wild in there. Actually, Mike, hold on. I'm gonna ask you this next thing after. I do want to hit the news really quick because I don't want to forget it. Our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. If you head over to MicallefCigars.com today, you can sign up to become an official ambassador. While you're at it, head over to Facebook and join the Micallef Ambassadors group. Only Micallef Cigars. Pretty easy, pretty quick. Somebody that we all know, some we already kind of talked about. News story from last week. Don Doroteo. Don Doroteo is a smaller boutique brand of cigars. If you haven't heard of them, check them out. They announced that none other than Garret Robinson will be the vice president of sales at that brand. And according to Garret, he will still be involved with Help Out That Cigars show on Monday nights. So that's great because I do enjoy watching Garret on there. But he also will now be taking he was doing some brokering, some cigar brokering. Last year, and now he's going to be taking another step forward and kind of taking the reins at a full-blown brand. All to himself. He'll be in charge of a sales team that I assume he'll be building as the year goes on. So as someone that we know from the media side and we've known for a while and as a personal friend, I wish him nothing but the best and congratulations, and I hope it works out for him, and hopefully he does great things. So I just want to give that shout out to him really quickly. For our news segment this week. That was once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. Yeah, Mike, one of the things I was going to ask you was kind of sort of transitioning, well, it's kind of staying on the retail topic. I have these conversations with people from time to time, and I even have like with not only just like the retail shop owners or the people who work there who kind of are there every day, but even like the other people who go into shops and they like to, have a cigar and hang out in the lounge and stuff they observe. But what is like the one thing that people, like customers or people, whatever, that do when they come in, they have a cigar, they're in the lounge, whatever it is they do when they're buying? What's like the one thing that they do that drives you crazy inside the shop?
The one thing, I'll tell you. The one thing that
I know you will. That's why I asked.
is some of them will piss on the seat in the fucking bathroom.
Really?
Or the floor.
I didn't see that coming.
Get it.
Floor pissers.
Get it. We're talking about grown ass men here. What is going on? What does your bathroom look like at your house? I mean, dude, for fuck's sake.
They're afraid to touch their peepees.
I mean, bro, pick up the seat, aim in the bowl. Don't be a fucking savage, I just don't get that. How is that? This is not a hard thing to do. And if for whatever reason you piss on the floor, fucking clean it up. Just take the 2 seconds out of your life to clean up your own piss that's on the floor. There are so many. I don't care if you bring a cigar in. Maybe that'll irk me a little bit or whatever, or all these other things. But that drives me nuts. It's just complete lack of respect, and. What do you do at home? Like, what happens?
Yeah, respect the lounge like it's your house, man.
It's funny you mentioned Casey before, and now Casey's here watching, and he commented, sniffing cigars
through the cello.
Through the cello,
oh,
I know.
Yeah, Pacello.
But
I don't have
you know what?
anything on
That
Pacello.
shit doesn't even bother me. People, what do you smoke? The Maduros. Okay. That stuff doesn't even irk me.
It's smooth.
I just figured this guy doesn't know. Yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And that doesn't aggravate me. Maybe it did at one point in my life, but it doesn't anymore. So what aggravates me is if someone is a complete savage in the store and they don't take care of their stuff.
Yeah, you can't be mad at ignorance, right? It's like sometimes no one told them, right? And maybe someone just needs to tell them. But you can be mad at like you should know to not just piss on the floor.
Right. I've had
Like that's just
we've had people steal the toilet paper out of the bathroom. And that shit's laughable to me. I'm just like,
You can't buy toilet paper. You got to steal it from
at the end of the
grocery
day,
it's gotta be rough. It's gotta be rough whatever's going on in your house.
exactly. That guy probably.
Because
That guy really probably needed it.
3 ply. It needs to be squishy. We want to make sure that you have a good experience at Cigar Hustler.
So what you're saying is you spring extra for the toilet paper, and then people come in and they just steal it.
Yeah.
And then they complain when the prices go up, Or they cry and complain when you need a key to go to the bathroom. You have a bathroom? Yeah, you need to buy something. Why? Because I don't want you stealing my toilet paper. That's why.
Soon you can give them a contract. Be like, yeah, and if you freaking piss on the floor, you gotta clean it. Sign here in the dotted line.
Casey said, well, I could put a camera in the bathroom. Nicole said, I know you can't put a camera in the bathroom, but you should put one outside. Maybe you can narrow down the culprits making a wall of shame. That would be great. If you find out who does make the mess, you have a wall of shame.
I would much rather have that engaging conversation with like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Casey adds another one. I only smoke Cubans, but do you have flavored cigars?
He's like really agitated all the time. He's very angry. I don't know what's going on. I love him to pieces, but
I love Casey too. But you're right. Casey's one of those people where it doesn't take much to get him upset.
He needs he needs to wake up in the morning and get a massage or something. I don't know, rub one out, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just needs to smoke some weed. I don't know. He needs something.
Maybe you just need to smoke some more Pastania.
That's true.
He doesn't have access to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I had a quick question on the Pastania thing. This year, we were talking about lists before, and you made a high rating on a prestigious list this year.
The only one that matters.
The Watchdeck Toro 2020 on Coop's list. You hit number 4.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel pretty good.
It made him feel like shit, Mitchell. What do you think?
Palmer will trap me from time to time. He did a fake post about Dojo acknowledging our podcast, and I got duped. I thought for sure. I was like, oh wow, fucking Eric's pretty cool. It's awesome to get a nod or an accolade from somebody else in the industry. And then I found out that it was fake, and I'm like, you son of a bitch, you got me. So now everything that I hear, I'm always like, wait a second, is this legit? But it's awesome to get a nod from especially somebody like Coop who's been in the industry so long. Whoever. It's always cool to get that feeling, because you do work hard on these things, and it's easy to say, hey, none of that matters to me. I'm just making good cigars for me and stuff. But when someone else says, hey, you're doing all right, you're like, okay, cool, I appreciate that, thank you very much.
For the record, this has to go to the comments, people. This happens from time to time. A certain group of guys come on to watch the show and they comment along. They go, I have a question. Can I ask my question? Ask your fucking question. Like, if you have a question, just ask. Why are you asking to ask a question? That's like when when people go to, hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just ask me the fucking question, and I'll answer.
What you got?
Yeah, what do you got? What's the question that everyone?
The big question.
There's a burning question in the YouTube chat right now that apparently is so. you know, and it's gonna, and I know it's not even a serious question. I know it's not gonna be a serious question, but it's something that apparently to these guys is it's hot and heavy. It has to be answered. So while they're
How do you play?
what, Mike?
How do you play baseball?
Exactly. Here we go. And there's another one. Can I ask a question? I'm just gonna ignore you. So you either ask the question or that's it. I know they're all from. They're all the LFD guys. They're all LFD guys. They're all the guys who want Tony to make 100 ring gauge Andalusian bull, and they for some reason can't seem to understand that it was made very clear from the beginning of the NFT project that there will be no more Andalusian bull blends ever made. That they're not doing it, and they keep asking for it. But apparently Tony said he'll make something for them. So we'll see what that is. We'll see what it is. I don't know.
Maybe he'll
See
call
that?
it the Big Tony.
What'd you say, Mike?
See that? We went from not happening to happening.
I know, right?
It's not gonna happen until it happens.
Man, I lost my train of thought. I'm all fucked up now.
See, look, you're getting agitated. It's okay. Like I said, you know.
I know.
maybe I'll have to take-
I know. You can't let other people's shit
Between
get to you.
between all your brands, like I said, you've done some other like limited release things. Which brand have you found like got the most traction quickly that you were like surprised? You were just kind of like, I'm gonna do this. You know, obviously you hope every brand's good, but something that, you know, obviously your core line is your core line. You hope that it does the most successful. But what have you put out that you're like, you know, this is something that I'm putting out, maybe not necessarily just for you, but you're like, this is something I really think is cool. But if it survives, I don't care. If it does well, sweet. But it just like did more than you expected.
I think that that's always kind of my mentality whenever I make a blend or I make a cigar. You know, I would tell you that consistently what I produce sells at the same level, if not a little bit higher each time, right? So you try and push that limit as you continue to grow and see where the resistance is at. You know, the small runs that I was doing, you know, 5,000 cigars or whatever, they sell out pretty fast. So, you know, then you try and make 10,000. And you see what where the resistance is and where the pullback is, and I think that all of them have done, I guess, better than I thought. You know, because I always have a lower expectation, I guess, to some degree. But when your reputation is your reputation, they should sell well. You know, I my personal opinion, I haven't made a bad one. I've made cigars that I love. I love all of them. I smoke all of them. I don't look at one and be like, you know. Maybe there's particular vitolas that I'll smoke more of, but I would smoke all of them. So, you know, they all do very well. And what's really kind of interesting is how different ones do in different stores. You know, you might have a store that sells very well on a Habano or very well on a broadleaf or whatever the case may be. But, you know, when you drop those limiteds or your special release stuff, everybody's excited about it and it sells, you know, within 48 hours. You know, I remember when I released the Hushachas and Matt Booth was like, he's like, hey, so, you know, I have a couple of retailers that'll probably want it as well. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me know. So they drop, you know, I don't like to sell things before they arrive because there could always be some type of fuckery, whether it's a delay or something like that. And it's hard to kind of unwind that, learn that lesson. So when they came in, they, you know, within 2 days they were gone. And, you know, as I'm driving to the shop, it's like, hey, I got a couple of retailers. I'm like, well, dude, you know, you better tell me who needs them because they're gone. So I have to go back and talk to some of these other retailers and say, hey, listen, I really want to kind of cater to everybody. Is it okay if I take a couple off the top here, a couple off the top here, so I can please all parties? So, you know, when you have that, that's a great feeling. So then you try and make a little bit more. You make a little bit more, and you see where those resistance levels are and what's going on in the market. So, they, you know, they've all done really well, man. I'm very fortunate, very, very grateful for the people who I work with and who I continue to work with.
For sure. Talking about continuing to work with, who would you, or can you tell us that you're in kind of the works with any new factories, new people right now, or is there anyone on your list that you're like, I really want to lock this down in the future? Or
I mean, personally, if I can make every single cigar out of Nica Sueño, I would. You know, they're my guys, and they always deliver. You know, They're consistent. They have great tobacco. So those are Skip and Michael is. But I feel like I'm already working with who I really want to work with. You know, I've always had respect for Nick Melillo. I would love to work with him on making something. I don't ever really see that happening. I don't ever see that coming to fruition because he's, I feel like whenever I talk to him, he's like, "Oh, I'm super busy." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right," So I couldn't see that being a thing, and I'm still, like I said, I'm very happy with who I have. So when the opportunity came up to really kind of produce the things that I wanted to produce this year with Skip, I was like, I put everything else on hold,
Yeah.
without question. It's
You
like I'm
you
not.
had you had to go all in on it, and it sounds to me like you have a system that works for you, and it's like why fix something that's not broken, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So if things happened, if things had changed, if Skip was having issues with tobacco or issues with finding the capacity to make and produce my cigars, then I would be like, okay, who do I like to work with? Well, it's people who I know and trust. So I know and trust Eric Espinosa. I know and trust Matt Booth. I know and trust Nick. Those are three guys that I could think off the top of my head that I could call and say, hey, look, I want to work with you to do something. Can we make it fit? Uh, Outside of that, I mean, those are my guys. Skip and Michael are my dudes, and those other dudes are probably my number twos.
Casey
Sure.
actually asked an interesting question here. That I'm reading. I'll read it.
With right now.
With the way the market is moving, that most robustos are $10 plus, and a consumption adjustment already starting to take effect. How does this affect future products coming out?
Future products for me or future products in general? Are we talking about?
Yeah, Casey. How specific are we on that question?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to produce the same. I'm going to continue with the projections and the growth, the ability that I believe I can sustain. So if I'm marking 15 to 20% growth on an annual basis, I'm going to continue to produce those numbers.
Yeah, he said for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to produce those numbers regardless. I'm not. Here's what I have learned. I have learned that the real growth for any industry, any retail shop, brand owner, manufacturer happens in those gaps, right? And what do I mean by that? When everybody else pulls back, you push forward, right? And if your price points mean that consumers are smoking less, then you have to figure out ways to keep them stimulated, right? And and continue to engage and purchase and support your products. So I don't believe in scaling down in that scenario. If anything, I believe in ramping up. If you were prepared when COVID hit as a retailer, if you had an online presence, and it didn't have to be a great online presence, it just had to be an online presence, and you had the ability to contact and ship to customers, then your retailers that closed down or totally locked the doors, you could fill that gap and you could boost up and you could produce more sales. So, if brands are going to pull back, and I think that he's right, that you're going to see a lot of brand owners and manufacturers scaling down or closing their doors. But I believe that you need to push. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you fill that gap and you gain new consumers. So I don't see me pulling back. I mean, to be honest, $10 for Robusto is definitely the new normal, if not more.
Yeah.
$12, $13, and I think that the consumers realize that and they're okay with it. I do. I can't. If your consumer was a $10 cigar consumer and now that cigar is $12, I can't see them being like, "Fuck, I'm not smoking this cigar. What do you got that's $8?"
Well, honestly, like at the end of the day, you look at how much everything else around us is going up, and cigars are actually like they haven't gone up as much as everything else. So even though it is at the like a luxury good, it still holds good value for your money and your time, and
Yeah, and let's be honest, your cigar consumer, they like to smoke that cigar. They're already doing it. It's not, yeah, they could smoke less. I can't really see too many of them smoking less. Maybe your fly by night guys that what is a cigar consumer? Is your average cigar consumer the guy that smokes one cigar a day or a week, or 2 cigars a month. That guy, he's not making, he may buy 5 cigars for that month and he only smokes 2 or 3, right? That's why all of these manufacturers have always done deals or discounts or incentives with, hey, if you buy X, you're going to get more, right? Because they know that if a consumer comes into the shop and they leave with more cigars, they're going to smoke more cigars, right? So I can't really see, I'm not pulling back. If anything, I took all my chips and I shoved them in. I've never spent so much money on tobacco ever until this year. So,
Yeah.
And Mitchell, we're going to talk about price. Mitchell's in Canada. So, you want to talk about prices of cigars. I mean, your taxes alone up there are got to be crippling.
Yeah, it depends on the province, but anywhere between 280 to up to 400% on tobacco. So you're looking at for a $10 Robusto costing you anywhere between $22 to $40 up here retail. We still have shops open, and you look at the whole rest of the world and who smoke a lot of Cuban stuff, and Cubans are way outside that price point, and people still go to them, right? It's if the quality is there, people are gonna enjoy it, right? And if that's the end, right? It's I don't think that the market's gonna have like some massive crash that people think, or all of this. It's prices are going up everywhere in all things, and people still enjoy cigars.
Well, the other thing you got to remember too is, especially when you talk about Cubans, it doesn't really affect people like me and Mike here in the U.S., but for people who are watching outside, because we have an international viewership and listenership, and yeah, you look at Cohiba in Trinidad. The MSRP on those recently just went up 300%. So first, you're talking about getting a Cohiba Robusto for like $80 a stick, and then you go to a place in Canada, you add the tax to it. That's over $100 for a Cohiba Robusto.
The crazy part is, even at that price, they're sold out everywhere. You can't even buy them. You can't even get them stocked. They sell out so fast. So
because China takes.
Yeah,
that's true. China does take a lot of them.
They do take a lot.
Well,
I've never understood taxation in general. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's just, I'm just really dumb, I guess. But if they print the money, they make the money, and then they take it back for something else, like why not just leave it alone? And then if you want to put it on something else, just print the money for that and they'll put it over there. Wouldn't that make sense? I don't know.
World economics.
Yeah, Habanos has been pretty public that the fact that their pricing is based off of the Hong Kong market in China specifically, and it really comes to no surprise, because if anyone follows that side of the business, and again, it's more so outside the U.S., but people like myself follow it, for these reasons. Half of Habanos was owned by Altadis USA a few years ago. They sold that to a Chinese company. So now you got to remember that half of Habanos is owned literally by China. So of course, they're going to want to make sure that they get their allocations. They want to price it based on their country. And Chinese people, the one thing I've noticed, not really Chinese, but Asians in general, that market, there's a demand for luxury, right? And they will pay for it. So you have to understand, you look at their mindset, it's like, wow, we know that in Hong Kong specifically, there's a market where a lot of people are willing to pay these prices. So why not just raise the prices and make everyone pay for it? And like Mitchell said, they raise the prices and they're still sold out. But again, it's economics. And I think the New World stuff is probably not that extreme, but I think that you're definitely seeing some good price increases on a lot of stuff. I know Davidoff has slowly started to kind of raise stuff. They're not Cuban, but they're an international brand. So you have to understand too that Davidoff obviously goes up against everything that the Cubans are around the world. Yeah, and then you can look at the U.S. market. The U.S. market's the largest cigar market, so I think eventually it'll trickle in more here, but I just don't think we're quite there yet. But yeah, everything's going up. and it's only a matter of time till it gets worse. And that's why, the whole FDA thing here in the U.S. I mean, you want to start regulating cigars more and raising the taxes and stuff, and it makes them more expensive, and this is why. I mean, they wanted to start doing taxes by weight. All the guys that like larger cigars, I mean, the bigger the cigar, the more it's going to cost because of its weight and tax. It's crazy. There's a lot of craziness that goes on out there. So, but anyway, kind of moving on as we get towards the end of the show. We only have a few minutes left here. One of the last things I wanted to it's been a long day. One of the last things I wanted to bring up here tonight on the show with you guys. First of all, thank you both for being here. Mitchell, congratulations on being here on the show. You've done a great job. You've gotten a lot of love tonight. Mike has too, but Mitchell, you've gotten a fair amount of love tonight. So
yeah, I'm glad to be here with you guys.
I know
it's a good show.
This is going to be good. First of all, what did you think of that cigar that you're smoking? Is that your first one, or have you smoked those before?
For the Laranja?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is I've had a few of these actually. Like I said, I've had a few different Vitolas.
Huh?
Have you been listening? That's what he said. He said that's his favorite size.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. I don't know. I have a lot on my mind. I have a lot on my mind today.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe.
No, it's all good. No, I love this cigar. It's super tasty. It's, again, whether it's the orange band or it actually does, it's one of those cigars that kind of gives you that little bit of that orange peel, kind of citrusy vibe to it. The retrohale is super nice. Nice spice to it. Yeah, it's a really good cigar, and it was sad there for a few years that they had to stop production or had not as much production, but they're back at it again, and yeah, I love the cigar. It's smoking really good. I'm kind of coming down to the nub here.
Smoking all the way down there. One of the last questions I wanted to ask Mike. I've been on shows with you before. I think mostly on How About That Cigar. As we get into a new year, we have a new year for possibilities, a new year of events and trade shows. I know you mentioned you're going to go to TPE, you're going to go to PCA. We talked last year after the trade show about some of your thoughts. And I'm going to bring this up now because I don't know if I'm going to get you back on the show before or after the trade show this year. But have any of your thoughts on PCA changed since the last time we've talked? I'm curious because I know you had a lot to say last time.
What did I say? They need to do something. They need to get people in.
You said that they needed to buy a warehouse in Texas.
Yes, that would be so great.
That one resonated. I heard a lot of comments about that after that show.
Wouldn't that make sense? It goes back to vertical integration. Wouldn't that make sense? A big area that we all went to. I mean, I haven't heard any news of them doing something like that yet. But I mean,
imagine they just bought like a giant space that was, smoking friendly, and they could run smoking events all year round, make profit off that for the PCA. They can promote the industry through that. The biggest thing isn't necessarily
the storage alone for the booths. They would crush on a monthly basis. You can leave it here.
I think so.
I think one of the biggest things, like in terms of them looking at other avenues, in terms of like other locations to have the trade show at, was not only just, okay, where can we smoke and house this many people, but where can people go after the fact? Where can people go and eat food? Like all of these people go eat food and then go to a bar and smoke a cigar. Or, obviously you could just make it like everyone just spends all day at this venue and, it's catered and they're bringing in different food trucks, etc. There's obviously things you could do around that to make it just super accessible. But so far, that's one of the biggest arguments I've had for them going outside of Vegas. It's like, is there a place with a hotel big enough to have all these people, right? To keep all these people here, and then, like I said, are there enough restaurants? Are there enough amenities for the mass amounts of people that come in? And Vegas is just, they have everything there and it's easy. And unfortunately, the trade show floor is super, super expensive. You hear brands talk about it every year. A power bar costing $500 and stuff like that. But yeah.
One of the critiques about PCA outside of the trade show that I've contemplated bringing up, and I don't know, Mike, I don't know if you even know about this or if you have an opinion one way or the other, but one of the things that happened recently was, and it's nothing. And look, before people get all upset, it's not about. This is about PCA. It's not about the other party. It has nothing really to do with them. But last year, one of the big things that PCA did outside of the trade show and their regular stuff is they released that statement about the packaging, right? I think you guys both know about this. And a lot of that, I think, was directed at people like Ezra Zion, Pravada, with some of the stuff that they're doing. We've all talked about this, and I'm not really going to get into that specifically. But what I found was interesting was obviously it was without saying, it was pretty obvious that they were pretty much making that statement towards Pravada Cigar Club. And then I noticed recently that they did a whole bunch of filming and stuff with them, and they made all this content. They put it online, and they were like getting all excited about it. And I just thought it was interesting because I was like, well, like 6 months ago, you guys were causing a ruckus with this letter you put out, basically at Pravada, like, hey, you guys should stop with all of your inappropriate packaging and all of this. And it started a whole thing, and there was a lot of little beefs with other people after that, and then they're kind of going and they're doing stuff together, and I thought, like, oh, so I guess was that all just forgotten about? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't know if you guys had any knowledge of that.
Well, I didn't have knowledge of it, but you know what, dude? It's best to bury the hatchet. It's best to sit down with people who have different points of views and work shit out.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with their format or you disagree with their format, you're going to get nothing done with telling somebody what to do. It's never going to happen. Whether you work with them or not, that's a totally different avenue. But I'm not a proponent of trying to shit on somebody and disagree with and go after them for how they're going about things. I just don't think that it's productive at all. One thing that was really kind of remarkable to me is you go to TPE and PCA. You went to the TPE after party with Drew Estate. I would assume. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is the after party at PCA? I mean, no one goes. And I heard that people that went, it was atrocious. The
one at the nightclub?
Yeah, whatever they did. But I can tell you the one at TPE, that thing stood out. Like, holy shit, man. It was incredible. They had a band. They had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people posted about that TPE after party. It looked awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just mentioned that because there's so many things that PCA does. I mean, I don't think that they should have backed out of the whole Cigar Consumer Day. I don't, they walked that back because they had so much pushback. I think that they needed to sit down with people and figure out the best approach to kind of go about it. And that's what really got to suck, is that everybody has an opinion as to how things need to be done. And you're never going to make everybody happy. But you know what? If I'm I want to be in a location where I can talk with all the brand owners and manufacturers as a retailer, right? And then as a brand owner and manufacturer, I want to be in a location where I can meet a bunch of different consumers. Now, I don't want a consumer that's coming up saying, where the fuck is my free ashtray? But I do want that ability to connect with people. I mean, whenever I get a chance to meet a good consumer, they get my cell phone number, we become friends. And, if I had that ability at a convention for one more day, I would take it without question, because I want to meet more people. I think it's awesome that, I was having this conversation with my son. I was like, I think I can fly to any state at this point, and I know somebody there, and we can meet up with that person, and then he starts asking the hard questions, like, what about Alaska? I'm like, I might have Alaska. I don't know about Alaska, but maybe Alaska,
Oh, I'm sure the pausers would invite you in.
That's
they're
true.
big on the smoke. They're big on the smoke in, and I'm pretty sure I've seen them. I don't know if I've seen them smoke your stuff, but I'm sure they would love to have you.
You know what I'm saying? But that's my point. I want to be able to meet those people. And if those people are all going to one location, I want to be at that location to meet those people.
For sure.
If you don't want to engage with your consumer and you're really kind of full of yourself, of course you don't want that to happen.
Right.
Of course, you'd much rather just sell your product and be on your merry way, but that's just never how I've done business. So, it sucks that they walked that back. They really should have continued forward with. We're pushing forward with this. We're going to work this out. Even if people didn't get free cigars, like here's an opportunity to get in front of your consumers. Whatever. Um, and they should get a big warehouse. I don't care where it is. It could be on campgrounds. I don't care. You're burning all of this money in Vegas. I fucking hate Vegas. I can't stand it. I hate going. I hate spending $50 on a fucking cheeseburger for service that's subpar, where nobody gives a shit. They just want you in and out because they want to get to the next table. I'm just not a fan. It's just not for me. And I think that a lot of other people agree that way. You start factoring in your overall costs. All right. So then you get a budget. You got to figure out, you want to do a nice dinner. You want to do a nice dinner with your friends and the people that you're with. And, it's easy. You can easily drop $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a meal. I'd much rather go to the best steakhouse in Texas, spend $1,500 and everybody like, man, that was fucking amazing. I mean, whenever I go to Vegas, the first place I go to is a sushi place. It's off the strip. It's all you can eat. I think it's called Sakura Sushi. And I crush
know the place you're talking about. Yeah.
I go there every single time because I just want to destroy worlds when it comes to salmon. But, I don't want to be on the whole. I don't want to be on the strip. I don't want to, everything is ridiculously expensive. And I wouldn't mind it so much if the service was there. And I think that's really kind of brings me full circle as to why I like giving that service as a retailer and giving that service as a brand owner, and being accessible to people. My wife will tell you, the fucking phone goes off all the time, text messages, Facebook messages, phone calls, emails, whatever, it's an ongoing job. It never ends.
Hey, well, you came in clutch for us tonight,
Yeah, I like to be that guy. I like to, it goes back to being a good person,
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's fucking chaos in this house. Okay, my wife had to go to a parent-teacher meeting thing at 6:00, and I was under the control of the 3 kids, and one kid's has a low fever. She's got like 100 fever that's spiking up and down and up and down and up and down. But we figured it out. We'll put it together. We'll deal with the catastrophe and we'll get through it. It's like challenge accepted as far as I'm concerned.
Nice.
Nice.
In terms of the Pravada thing, actually, I think it is good that the people that they kind of call out are willing to have the conversation with them, and that they're willing to come into a compromise, right? Like, just because someone does something that they don't necessarily agree with doesn't mean that they can't change or talk about why it was done or what they can both do together moving forward to help the industry as a whole. Because, looking at it from either way, I listen to what Brian has to say and I listen to what PCA is putting out there and all these other people as well that are kind of caught in the crossfire of it. And, for both of them to put their ego aside and say, you know what, maybe it's better that we look at this from both perspectives. And the cigar industry has a lot of old school mentalities, right? It's a industry of heritage and things like that. And sometimes bringing in some new blood that sometimes it might stir some things up can actually solve more issues in the long run than cause them. They might cause some minor issues here and there, and we got to point those out. But at the end of the day, they're willing to both compromise and come up with a solution moving forward to help the industry as a whole. And hopefully it works out. I really hope it does work out because, both, that it's going to be better for everyone in the end, right?
Yeah, and then there needs to be a solution one way or the other. So it's like as long as you guys can be together and talk it out, then hopefully it leads to good things. Because at the end of the day, regardless of like however you feel one way or the other, you'd like it just to go away. To have no issues. I mean, that's really the ideal situation. And of course, you never in a perfect world. I mean, there's no issues anywhere, but there's always going to be issues. But if you can deal with certain ones, I just thought it was, and like I said, it wasn't really anything on specifically on that. I found it interesting. I was like, oh wow, so like they're working together now. That's interesting. I wonder if that'll change anything. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But I feel like everyone kind of wants to do what they want to do, and they're probably, like Mike said, they're going to do that. But it's interesting to see on that particular issue with those specific people. You know, does that topic come up again this year? I don't know. We'll see. But there's a lot of time, a lot of shows left to talk about PCA. But I just wanted to pick Mike's brain a little bit because I know we've talked about it before, and I figured I'd get a little bit of a refresher out of him before we wrapped up. So, but that's really going to do it, guys. Good show, long show, a lot of different stuff going on. Kind of a last-minute preparation for this show. We were supposed to have Ram Rodriguez. He will be on the show February 8th, I want to say, a couple of weeks. There was some travel stuff that came up, and he wasn't going to make it. And then, funnily enough, he actually was going to make it right before the show, but we had already gone with Plan B. So thank you both for being here. Mitchell, obviously, thank you for being on here, and I will continue to see you. Mike, thank you for being here with us. I love having you on the show. Glad you could be here. Thank you for jumping on last minute. I know it was last minute, so thank you. I really appreciate it. And I know you just said you had stuff going on.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you for making the time. I really appreciate it. And as
We
always,
bro, you know.
yeah, I know.
There's always
I know, and you're a trooper. I mean, you get through it, and you're there, and you know, you've always been good to me. So that's all I can say. You've always been good to me. So I appreciate it. But to everyone listening and watching, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, on all the podcast apps, channels, whatever you want to call them, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. Visit smokintabacco.com for more news and updates. Oh, and one last thing. So we haven't really gotten too much into the fundraiser stuff yet, but we did, for those who missed it, last night we did announce one of the prizes for this year's raffle fundraiser for Cigar Family that we'll be doing in a couple of months. It'll start in a couple of months, but the team at Smokin has graciously donated a box of the TGS Opus X from the Great Smoke 2021, which if you follow them, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 10-count box made exclusively for them by Carlito. One of those boxes will be up for grabs in the raffle this year. So just to give you guys a little teaser, something to look forward to. Another one, actually, I'll mention too. This is the second thing. A Rabbit Air purifier will be, for those who are looking maybe to get one but don't want to spring for it. One of those will also be in the raffle this year. So keep an eye out for that. As well as so many other great things. We're still finalizing who's doing what, so just bear with me. An official announcement will go out in a couple weeks, but just trying to get a couple of things done before that. And sign up for our email newsletter, because that's going to get you some of the biggest updates on what we do with that fundraiser and everything involved. So you don't miss out if you want to be a part of that. And that's going to be it. That's our show for tonight, guys. We'll be back next week.
Mike, where can people get Powstanie, and how about Mike plug some stuff for his podcast too?
That's true, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram at Cigar Hustler. CigarHustler.com is a website. Cigar Hustlers podcast. We do a podcast every week, and then we have a private one on the Patreon, which is a Cigar Hustlers podcast as well. We don't have a lot of ad space. I'm gonna break a rule. I think we'll see how that works out. I don't like to do cigars as far as ads, but there's a particular friend who's working on something, and I want to help him grow and succeed. So yeah, check us out.
Is that Phosphoro?
No, it's not Phosphoro. Somebody you mentioned though. Somebody mentioned in this podcast.
All right.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Mike. Once again, just thank you for being here, and thank you for everything. And thank you everyone listening and watching, and we'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you Saturday night for Spare Notes with William Cooper, but then we'll see you here again Wednesday night, 7 p.m. next week. Take care, everybody.